Alright guys, so yeah, we're all psyched about the Shenmue 1 and 2 re-releases next month. August 21st, it's happening. Dead happy about it, but there is some consternation within the Shenmue community, some trepidation. Some people are worried about, these re-releases. We've heard things about them that it might not be the perfect ports that we're hoping for. There's certain things that are missing from them, and there's certain kind of technological issues that might present themselves. Some people are worried about this. They just want these games to be as good as they possibly can to attract as many new gamers as possible to then make Shenmue 3 be able to sell well, and we get the rest of the saga. So yeah, it is important that these re-releases are good, good enough that people can enjoy them. So yeah, I'm going to go over a few of the kind of issues that people are worried about and my thoughts on them and that kind of thing. So first, to do with the graphics, there's been talk that apparently there'll be some missing shadows and there'll be a slightly different kind of brighter atmosphere in a sense to the game, a brighter feel to it. So that's just slightly, I don't know really how that would come about. Apparently there has been some issues with, getting these games to run. They were kind of cobbled together, and in processing terms, it was apparently quite a challenge to actually get these games to run again, from the original code that they had access to. So, the shortcomings that we might see in these re-releases might be because of the difficulty of doing that port. I mean, I don't know anything about programming at all. I don't know if if Sega had decided to spend more money on these ports and put more effort in, would they have been able to fix these issues? I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible to do that. And it might be kind of a miracle that it's actually working in the first place. I don't know anything about programming. So yeah, comments from people that know more about it are welcome. So yeah, this thing about missing shadows, I hadn't heard that before. Some people have been commenting about this on the Shenmue forums and Facebook pages, and it's very interesting, conversation, and people just want these games to be as good as possible. But some people are warning against being overly, what's the word? We shouldn't give them too much leeway, people are saying. It's not good enough to just buy anything that's got Shenmue plastered on it, and we really should be striving for these ports to be as good as possible. And I think everybody wants that. I think Sega would want that. I don't think that they would have, left these things out had it been feasible, with a realistic kind of budget and time frame. Again, I don't know anything about the process. So anyway, some of the other things that potentially people are worried about. The game apparently will be locked at 30 frames a second. Now, a lot of people are saying they would have liked it to have been at 60 frames a second. The mod community, the PC, the emulator community has already been able to get the original Shenmues to run at 60 frames a second through emulators and things like that. So you can already play a version of Shenmue 1 and 2 at 60 frames a second. So people are kind of disappointed that Sega themselves haven't seemed to have been able to get that to work. So that is a bit curious. Again, I don't know where the variables are and where the potential problems could be. I don't know. But yeah, it seems from a layman's perspective, if the game was able to run at 60 frames a second on an emulator, just a homebrew kind of forcing it to run at that speed, why can't Sega have coded it for that on these new powerful consoles? I don't know. But to me personally, I don't really care about that. 60 frames a second is still a relatively new thing, at least for consoles. I know a lot of games on the 7th gen were just 30 frames a second, and that never bothered me. I think what bothers me is frame drops. So if you get slowed down, that's a problem. That's noticeable, that can break the kind of immersion and it can affect gameplay. So drops in frames is significant. But if it's locked at 30 frames a second, I don't think that's going to be an issue for me. I really don't care about that. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the original Shenmues ran at on Dreamcast. I'd imagine it's 30 frames a second, and they look pretty sweet to me back in the day. But also, Shenmue's not really a kind of fast action game most of the time. So 60 frames a second isn't really something that's going to massively benefit that game, I wouldn't have thought anyway. If anybody can, convince me otherwise, have a go. But there's not really, 60 frames a second to me is something that would benefit more in like bullet hell shooters or just fast-paced games, very fast racing games maybe, I don't know. But Shenmue, to me, doesn't feel like a game that really needs that. But it does seem weird that they couldn't get it into 60 frames a second, given the fact that the homebrew community has managed it. But it doesn't bother me, it really doesn't bother me. There's other issues with aspect ratios, people have talked about that before already. The cutscenes were obviously coded and recorded and put down onto disc or whatever as 4:3, so of course there's going to be a difference there. That doesn't bother me at all. One more significant thing that people have been concerned about is that it looks like there's going to be no passport feature. Now this was kind of an online feature where you could, there was online scoreboards, so you could share your times in the 70-man brawl. There's a kind of a thing you can do in Shenmue. You can compare your scores and your times and various things online, and apparently that's not going to be there. Now, that is disappointing. Yeah, that would be nice for people to be able to have that community aspect to it and share scores and compare game records and stuff with a passport style feature. And again, not a programmer, I don't know why that's not been implemented. I don't know what issue there is there. It seems like surely they could have done something with it. But personally, I never used the passport feature on the original Shenmues. So that's not going to affect me really. I'm not going to miss something that I never used in the first place, but I can see why people would be disappointed with that not being there. So yeah. But there has been some improvements as well. It's now got dual stick control. So the original Shenmue is kind of from a bygone era where there was only one thumbstick, of course, on the Dreamcast controller. So it's back to that era of one thumbstick and buttons for movement and the camera. To today's gamer, the old way of controlling Shenmue would feel quite awkward, I think. So it's good to have now an option to do it in a kind of more modern, more fluid way. So they have to put some effort into, bringing this game, making this game accessible. What was the other thing they did? What was the other thing? Oh, save anywhere. So now you can save anywhere, which is again a good development for this generation of gaming, where people kind of expect that in a lot of games. And on the original Shenmues, sometimes you would have to kind of do a lot of trekking back and forth just to go and save your game, and that kind of thing. Now, I personally didn't mind that. I kind of enjoyed the immersion of going through the game world and all the little kind of, the small details that you'd notice along the way, the little things here and there. So I kind of enjoyed that trek, but I can see why that would be definitely a good addition for today's gamers. And if you haven't really got the kind of nostalgia for this game, then that extra to-ing and fro-ing just to save your game might be something that frustrates you. So just like when Zelda Wind Waker got re-released, they updated some things to make that game a bit more quick-paced or a bit more user-friendly. The sailing was faster and there was other kind of improvements. This is similar to that, so it make it less frustrating to play, I imagine, for some people. So that's cool. So there has been some improvements. Apparently there was some issue with the audio as well. Apparently the audio is still going to be compressed. Again, not being a programmer, I can't really speak on this in detail, but it has been said from Sega that just working with that original source code did present difficulties. So we'll see. And apparently there's some other issues with the UI, user interface, and the QTE buttons. The prompts have been changed on screen, so they're kind of now they look a bit smaller apparently. So people are concerned about these little changes, and they just want it to be as good as possible because they want to attract a lot of new players to this series, and hopefully long may it continue. So what are your thoughts, guys? I'm sure there's a hell of a lot more to say on this. There has been some word from Sega themselves. They've got involved in this thread. There was a guy, I don't think I'm going to be able to find the quote right now, but yeah, just to summarise it, there was someone from Sega that said that we want people to be honest about. Here we go. It's Ibrahim Bhatti from Sega. He says, from a Sega's perspective, we want you to be as honest as possible. If you don't like something about the games, be honest. It's better for me to feedback whatever your thoughts are than just positives. So yeah, the people that are voicing concern and just wanting this port to be as good as possible, that's echoed by Sega staff themselves. They're getting directly involved with the community, and they're saying, we do want to get that kind of constructive feedback. But there's a caveat. He says, while there isn't much of anything we can change for the re-releases of the first 2 games, it's important for us to know what we could have done better, and more importantly, what we can do for other games. Do you hear that? That's from the mouths of Sega. Ibrahim Bhatti, who is a community marketing manager at Sega, has said that while there isn't much they can do for these re-releases, they want to know what could be done better for other games. What might that mean? Who knows? So yeah, but it's good to see them getting involved directly and talking to the fans. And yeah, so we need to give them feedback. You know, we need to tell them what works and what doesn't. It does seem like these games have been difficult to actually do a successful port with. The original code was awkward, so maybe that's why some of these issues are there. Some of them are difficult to understand, given the fact that emulators have been able to, you know, fulfill some of those wishes of fans. But who knows? Who knows? It'll be interesting anyway. I just hope it's not shite. I don't think it's going to be shite. It can't possibly be shite. It's not going to be shite. It's going to be sweet. Shenmue. Not long now, guys. All right. Thoughts, hopes, fears for the re-releases? All right, guys. In a bit. Bye.